Fresh morning to all my class 11 students. So let's start new week with another topic, that is our structure of heart, right? We have discussed the main basic things from body fluids and circulation. Now we have idea about the cells as well as the circulating part. So now we are taking our major part of the chapter, that is internal structure of heart. Everybody, you have discussed about heart, that is in class 10th also. So here we are going to add few more things in class 11th with you. So first let's talk about location, right? Location, as you know, that it is a uh, place between chest and thoracic cavity. And especially if I say, because we have already done this word when we talked about lungs, that in left lung there was cardiac notch. So your heart fits in that cardiac notch. So it is located in mediastinum. What is mediastinum? It is a space. It is a central space in chest and thoracic cavity. Now you have idea about the thoracic cavity also. You know that whole body is divided into head, thorax and abdomen, right? So their depression, that's a, when we draw a left lung, then there is a depression. There was an area where your heart fits in, right? So that depression in the left lung, it is known as cardiac notch, where your heart is placed. Now size is a always we say it's a like a tight fist. That much is the size of our heart. In our NCRT they have mentioned a word, clenched fist, tight fist. That is our size of heart. Shape, never ever, I always tell it to my students that please don't there are many kind of diagram you will find in different books, but please don't draw diagram of heart in straight. It is always slightly triangular. As you can see, I have also tried and you know may made it little triangular. It is slightly, a side towards left, as well as it is triangular. It triangular now, it's triangular means here not exactly like this kind of, that here is the opposite thing is there, that upper part is broaden wider and lower part is narrower in our heart, as well as it is not straight, it is tilted towards left side. Okay, it is tilted, as you can see. I'm putting my marker there. So here, as you can see, it is tilted towards left side, and the base, this apex, actually the base is this one, wider. Base is more wider, which is coming towards upper side, because it is a top view. It is a top view of your heart. So this is the base and this is apex. So apex is actually obviously like a triangle. Apex is narrower and base is wider. When we talk about the weight of heart, in males they are having large weight, their maximum weight, that is 280 to 340 grams. जो males में heart है, that is little bit higher side, that is 280 to 340 grams, and females, their heart is 230 to 280 gram in their weight. Now when we look heart from the top, not here, I'm not talking about the internal structure, here I'm not talking about internal any part of four chambers of the heart. I'm just saying, when you look heart from the top view, then what do we find? There is a partition. There is a partition which separates upper part from the lower part. That is known as coronary sulcus. Sulcus is actually means the it is a dividing part. It separates. So that which separates the upper part from lower, that is known as coronary sulcus. Then there is one more separation. It is known as you can see, this is ventricular part. So this separation is known as interventricular sulcus. So from upper side you can it is easy to locate coronary sulcus, which is separating upper portion of the heart from lower portion, and then is between the ventricular. So heart, I already told you that it is bent towards left side. So let's start with now internal structure of heart. Okay, so one by one we are going to start with the structure. So here first we have to draw outer portion of the heart, right? As you can see, this body you have to draw. Wherever I'm putting my marker, that you can pause there and you can draw that part. So here I am locating this outer part, that body of the heart, right? So now inner side this, there is the chambers. So here ventricular wall, you don't never ever draw it as straight. There is a smaller, then there is a bigger, smaller, bigger ridges like this. You have to draw it like smaller, bigger, smaller, bigger, like these kind of projections or the ridges are there, these. So here this region, and then there is the irregular wall, right? This is one side, right side, and this is our left side, right? So after drawing this, so again one more time, let's look at my marker. So here this one is our right side. So here you can see this is right side and here is the left side. Okay, now one by one we will start with this. Here you have to draw depression. डिप्रेशन इज लाइक कि अंदर को जैसे मुड़ी होती है कोई चीज़, स्ट्रेट नहीं है, डिप्रेशन, राइट? So now one by one, point by point we will start. So first you have to label this part, that is your right atrium, okay? And here is your left atrium. Or first of thing you have to draw this thing. Then you have to label this right ventricle, and then here we will label left ventricle. Done? Okay. Now first point, there is a depression. As you can see, there is a depression. This wall is not straight. There is a depression. First, let's label one more thing. This is septum, dividing wall. Septum is dividing wall. This is between auricles. So we will call it interauricular septum. There is a wall between ventricle also. So we will call it interventricular septum. So what have you drawn till now? Right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle, interauricular septum and interventricular septum. Now, this depression is known as fossa ovalis. This depression, as you can see, here I am taking you as just lead my path. This depression is known as fossa ovalis. Now, what is fossa ovalis? Fossa ovalis is remains of foramen ovale. मतलब बोलते हैं ना कि किसी का पूरा चीज़ जो है ख़त्म होने के बाद कुछ बच जाए. सो एक्चुअली जो ऑरिकुलर पार्ट है हमारा, उसमें एम्ब्रियोनिक स्टेज पे देयर इज़ अ दिस काइंड ऑफ कंडीशन. इट इज़ नॉट अटैच्ड. ओके, दिस पोर्शन इज़ नॉट अटैच्ड. ये वाला जो पोर्शन आपको दिख रहा है अटैच्ड, दिस इज़ नॉट अटैच्ड. ये अटैच्ड होता है आफ्टर बर्थ, राइट? एट द टाइम ऑफ बर्थ इट गेट अटैच्ड. नाउ व्हेन जब ये अटैच होता है तो यहाँ पे एक स्कार जैसा रह जाती है चीज़, जिसको हम बोलते हैं, दैट स्कार इज़ नोन एज फोसा ओवेलिस. सो ये डिप्रेशन बोल दो, ये स्कार बोल दो, दिस डिप्रेशन और स्कार इज नोन एज फोसा ओवेलिस. ये क्वेश्चन नीट में आता है. एंड इट इज़ अ रिमेन ऑफ फोरामेन ओवेल. Now foramen ovale, in the embryonic stage there is a opening between your auriculars, so that both the right and left, that opening is known as foramen ovale. So it means in embryonic stage there is a little bit mixing of blood, but this opening get closes at the time of birth, but scar remains, a kind of mark remains, and that scar is known as fossa ovalis. Okay, mark कर लिया, fossa ovalis हमने mark कर लिया. Now we are going to start with thickness. One by one start करेंगे. So as you can see that these are our auricles, right? And these are auricular part, and this is our ventricular part. Now let's talk about their thickness. Auricles have thinnest walls. Then right ventricle have little thick wall, and maximum thickest wall is observed in left ventricle. Left ventricle, they have thickest walls. Why? Because see, auricles का function क्या है? To receive blood and to pump blood into ventricle. They do not have much pressure to perform. They are not under any kind of pressure, so they require less muscles. Then ventricle, this right ventricle, it pass the blood to lungs, right? So that wall is little thick, but the function of left ventricle is to pump blood to each and every part of the body. So that is why it need more and more muscles to perform its function. That is why it has thickest wall. So atrium have to pump blood to ventricle, so they need less muscles. Right ventricle has to pump blood to lungs. Left ventricle has to pump blood to every part of the body, so it needs maximum muscles. Therefore, wall of left ventricle is thickest. Reason is clear? Now we are going to start with our right atrium. Okay, one by one we are starting with that. Now this is our right atrium. I'm going to talk about till this part. Okay, just right atrium. Now here, as you can see, one vena cava is coming from upper side, right? This is one vena cava, and here is the another vena cava which is coming from this side. Now, in many books you will find from the lower side, but we made it from in the atrium, because ventricles, they are not the receiving part. It is the atrium which are receiving part, so we are making it like this. So this portion, which is carrying deoxygenated blood from lower part, it is inferior vena cava. So इसको हम mark करेंगे inferior vena cava. Now there is the अपर बॉडी पोर्शन से जो डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड लेके आती है, दैट इज सुपीरियर वीना कावा, राइट? सो राइट एट्रियम में क्या क्या ओपन हो रहा है? सुपीरियर वीना कावा एंड इंफीरियर वीना कावा. इसके अलावा देयर इज अनदर ओपनिंग विच इज नोन एज योर coronary sinus. Coronary sinus, it brings deoxygenated blood from wall of heart, muscular wall of heart, क्योंकि वो भी तो पूरा काम करने के बाद now it becoming deoxygenated. मसल जब काम करते हैं they need ऑक्सीजन के बाद मेटाबॉलिक एक्टिविटी के बाद क्या रिलीज होता है? Deoxygenated blood. So that deoxygenated blood from the muscular wall, who is bringing that deoxygenated blood? Coronary sinus. So here we have three openings: superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, and one is coronary sinus. Now there are valves, VALVES. Now in inferior vena cava and in coronary sinus we have valves. ओके, वैल्व्स क्या करते हैं? टू प्रिवेंट बैकवर्ड फ्लो ऑफ ब्लड. सो यहाँ पे इन इंफीरियर वीना कावा जो यहाँ पे हमारे पास वैल्व है, इट इज़ नोन एज वैल्व ऑफ यूस्टैचियस. ये कहाँ पे है? इंफीरियर वीना कावा के अंदर. राइट. इंफीरियर वीना कावा के पास जो वैल्व है दैट इज वैल्व ऑफ यूस्टैचियस. कोरोनरी साइनस के पास जो वैल्व है दैट इज वैल्व ऑफ थिबेशियस. Valve of Thebaceous. So we have two valves in right atrium. One is in the inferior vena cava, that is valve of Eustachius, and another is with the coronary sinus, that is valve of Thebaceous. Okay, clear? Right. So let's now how to write them. So right atrium, it receives blood from upper body part through superior vena cava, from lower body part through inferior vena cava. Another vessel which is bringing blood from the wall of heart, it is known as coronary sinus. It brings deoxygenated blood from muscular wall of heart. Now valves, what is the function of valves? They prevent backward flow of blood. Now, because why only inferior vena cava and coronary sinus they are having valves? Actually, the thing is कि just look at the location of this superior vena cava. Superior vena cava is located at that एंगल कि जैसे ही ये एट्रिया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करते हैं वो अल्टीमेटली इसकी ओपनिंग अपने आप बंद हो जाती है. सो इट डज नॉट नीड अ स्पेसिफिक वैल्व. इसका एंगल ऐसे सेट है कि व्हेन these atria they contract it automatically closes. That is why we are not going to need any kind of valve in superior vena cava. Okay, now and now let's look here. As you can see here, we are having one more valve now between atrium and ventricle. राइट एट्रियम, बिकॉज यहाँ पे मैं किसकी बात कर रही हूँ, राइट साइड की. सो राइट एट्रियम एंड राइट वेंट्रिकल के बीच में जो वैल्व है, these valves they are known as right AV valve. A for auriculoventricular valve, और या फिर आप लिख सकते हो राइट एट्रियम वेंट्रिकुलर वाल्व्स. ऑरिकुलर लिख रहे हो तो ऑरिकुलर वेंट्रिकुलर वाल्व्स, अदरवाइज एट्रियो वेंट्रिकुलर वाल्व्स. सो दे आर नोन एज राइट AV valve. सेम यहाँ पे लेफ्ट साइड पे भी वी हैव वाल्व्स. These they are known as left AV valve. लेफ्ट साइड पे लेफ्ट AV valve जो कि ऑरिकुलर को वेंट्रिकुलर से अलग कर रहा है. नाउ दिस राइट AV valve, it is tricuspid. It is tricuspid valve, and left AV valve is bicuspid valve. So let's look at the valve first. Okay, so now valve, they prevent backward flow of blood. So portion which separates auricles from ventricles, that is, if it is right side then it is right AV valve. And the top view, when you look at this valve, it has flaps. It has muscular flaps, and these are known as cusps. So there are 3 muscular flaps or cusps, so that is why it is known as tricuspid valve. It is semicircular structure of tricuspid valve. Now left atrium, it has bicuspid valve, or it is known as mitral valve. Pulmonary veins, they have no valves. Always remember, pulmonary veins which are bringing blood from lungs, they do not have any valve. Valve which separates left side, that is known as left auricular ventricular valve, and it is bicuspid valve, also known as mitral valve. Right? So let's start with our left atrium once more. That now this chamber, it is receiving oxygenated blood through these pulmonary veins, right? We know that these are the exceptions in our heart, because otherwise veins carry deoxygenated blood, but here these pulmonary veins, they are bringing oxygenated blood. So now they are 4 in number. Why 4? Because 2 are coming from your right lung and 2 are coming from your left lung. So we cannot show these properly. So we are making 4 openings here. Now, the wall of left ventricle, it is made up of cardiac muscles and it is 3 times thicker than your right ventricular wall. This much is clear. I hope this much structure is clear to you. Now, as you can see, I told you that we have to make these bulges few little smaller, then longer, then smaller, then longer, like these, right? Same here, smaller, longer, smaller, longer. So now, smaller bulges, जो smaller ridges हैं, these smaller ridges, they are known as your, there are two types. जो smaller हैं, they are known as columnae cornae. Columnae cornae, COLUMNAE, columnae cornae. और जो बड़े वाले आपने बनाए हैं, they are known as papillary muscles. They are known as papillary muscles. One more time I am going to tell you that जो smaller हैं, these smaller ridges, smaller projections or smaller ridges, they are known as columnae cornae. और जो बिगर वंस हैं उनका नाम मैं यहाँ पे लिख देती हूँ फिर से, papillary, PAPILLARY, papillary muscles. Okay. Now they are attached with these flaps. Let's make them again. आपके सामने बना देते हैं एक बार. So they are attached, these they are attached with flaps. These ridges, they are attached with flaps. These papillary muscles, they are attached with flaps. Okay, which flaps? Flaps of your valves, bicuspid and tricuspid valve. उनके साथ attached होते हैं ये. Now, what is the function of them? What is the function of them? So first, left atrium में आपको क्या लिखना है? It receives blood from lungs, oxygenated blood by pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins total 4 होती हैं. 2 are coming from right and 2 are coming from left lung. Now there are two ridges in ventricular walls. यहाँ पे अगर मुझे बनानी है ये ventricular wall. So here is my, right. So here that is the valve. Only I am now concentrating on the ventricular portion. That's it. Okay. So here we can also make few ridges. Now these are our tricuspid and bicuspid wall. Now there we have two kind of ridges. Smaller one, they are known as columnae cornae, and जो larger हैं थोड़ी, they are known as papillary muscles. And these जो large वाली हैं वो आपको attach करनी है इस हमारे valve के साथ. So here यहाँ पे भी होती हैं smaller, larger. So these larger ones, they are attached like this to the valves of our, these are valves of our mitral valve or tricuspid valve. So papillary muscles, they are attached with chordae tendineae. ये जो आपको हमने बनाई हैं, these are our chordae tendineae. These are chordae tendineae. Okay, one more time we will see in our picture, right? We will look into our picture that how we have drawn it. So as you can see, these are known as our chordae tendineae. What is the function of this? Why I am telling you all this? What is the reason? See, papillary muscles जो हैं, they are attached with chordae tendineae, right? They are attached with chordae tendineae with the valve. जो papillary muscles हैं हमारे, वो chordae tendineae के साथ जाके हमारे valve के साथ attached हो जाते हैं. Now, tricuspid and bicuspid valve, they have very very thin flaps. बहुत कैसा structure है? They are very very thin. In semi-circular हैं, बहुत thin हैं, and but they play major role in blood flow. जैसे ही blood auricle से ventricular में आता है, they just open, and then when ventricle में blood आ जाता है, they have to close. Now they are so thin to support them, to support this tricuspid and bicuspid valves. When auricles contract, flaps open so that blood can be pumped into ventricles. But when ventricles they contract so strongly, these flaps they have to close, but they are very thin, so they are supported by chordae tendineae, which are attached to flaps, and they are attached with the help of papillary muscles. So papillary muscles, they are helping them to attach with the valves. So basically their function is to support that area, right? Their function is to support flaps of tricuspid and bicuspid valve. So as now you have understood the structure, right? I have told you the major parts of the structure. Now the diagram which will we have to make, that should look like this. So let's quickly see that what we have not drawn till now. So here, these ridges you have drawn, right? These are done. Okay, so larger ridges, from that these are known as papillary muscles, and from papillary muscles chordae tendineae, they are attached with which valve? Mitral valve. And here chordae tendineae, they are attached with papillary muscles and with the tricuspid valve. Yahan tak we have drawn. Okay, so now this portion is our deoxygenated blood. I have colored it so that you don't get confused. So here this portion is deoxygenated blood. It is receiving. Now see, now we have to erase foramen ovale from this area, and we are now taking out pulmonary artery. This pulmonary artery, it comes out from your right ventricle and then opens up into two branches. Can you tell me why two branches? Because this is carrying blood to lungs. So one is moving to your left lung and one is moving to your right lung. So this is marked as pulmonary artery. Okay, as you can see, arrow is going from your ventricle, this is going up, and here it is going to right lung, and here it is moving to left lung. Now let's move towards your left part. This is left ventricle. From left ventricle, there is arising our major artery with the three branches. That is they are branchial, carotid artery, bicephalic artery. We are not going to detail of them. So here the main aorta, which is carrying oxygenated blood, and it will transport oxygenated blood to all tissues. So oxygenated blood from your left ventricle is carried by main artery, and that largest artery is known as aorta, and it will send blood to the tissues. So one more time, let's quickly now we will recall, but first let me tell you that there are also valves, right? Here we have to make valves here in this side, and let's make it with red. So here on the left side. So now aorta, valves between left ventricle and aorta, that is your aortic valve. These all are semilunar valves, okay? And here valve between your ventricle and pulmonary artery, it is known as your pulmonary valve. So two semilunar valves we have. Two semilunar valves. One is which is between ventricle. कौन सा ventricle? Right ventricle. Right ventricle and between that is your pulmonary artery. So pulmonary artery में यहाँ पे कौन सा valve है? For the to prevent backward flow, this is known as pulmonary valve. Okay, and on your left side, aorta is carrying the blood. So here, like if you are making aorta like this, so we have to make valve like this. Okay, so this is known as your aortic valve. Clear? There is a valve, there is a wall, dividing wall, which is dividing between the right portion from the left portion, and this dividing wall is known as septum. Now, as you can see, this heart is covered with the double membrane layer, and this layer is known as pericardium. Protective layer of heart is known as pericardium, and inside this pericardium I have filled it with the fluid. It is known as pericardial fluid. Okay, so this is all about our internal structure of heart. So let's quickly now see what we have marked. Now this is our right portion, right? So this is right atrium. This one is right ventricle. It is clear to us. This one is superior vena cava, which is bringing deoxygenated blood from upper side of the body, and here is the inferior vena cava. I have not drawn here coronary sinus because now you have idea about that. Okay, that was for your understanding purpose. Now here this valve is known as our tricuspid valve. And tricuspid valve, now this is 3 flaps. It is having 3 flaps. Now these ventricle valves, they are not smooth, they are having ridges. Larger ridges, they are known as papillary muscles. Larger ridges, they are known as papillary muscles, and smaller ridges, they are known as columnae cordae. They are known as columnae cordae. And to these papillary muscles, these chordae tendineae, they are attached with tricuspid valve. So these are what? These are our chordae tendineae. Now on the left side, we have pulmonary veins which are bringing oxygenated blood. This is our left atrium, right? And their valve is bicuspid valve, and these are our chordae tendineae. Let's write it here, chordae tendineae, right? And this is left ventricle. So this is all about internal structure of heart. Then there are 2 semilunar valves. One is pulmonary and one is aortic valve. And the main artery which is carrying your oxygenated blood, that is aorta, and their double membrane layer which is protecting our heart, that is pericardium, and it is filled with a fluid which is known as pericardial fluid. So please draw this diagram beautifully without any fear. This is really, you are going to enjoy this diagram once you will learn it. All the things, they are very simple, right? So make it with you can use different pens just for your understanding. Otherwise in exam it is not allowed to use these kinds of pens, but for in your notebook you can draw this so that you can able to understand it. So let's that's about internal structure of heart. Next we are going to discuss about the conductive system, or you can say circulation of heart in detail in my